Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
I'm doing terrific, and I hope you and all of our listeners had a fantastic Easter weekend.
Well, I certainly did, and here we are. It's April 1st, April Fool's Day. I don't know if we've ever done a podcast on April Fool's Day, but it's always so much fun. And I know that I've told you about this before, but if I haven't done a podcast on this, one of the funniest things that ever happened, and it's a true story. I was driving to work one morning on April 1st in the late 80s, and WCCC radio pulled a spoof saying that there was a volcano on top of Avon Mountain. And there were cars that were pulled over in the morning, causing traffic jams and so on and so forth, until they made WCCC say that this is just a spoof. But talk about, we're vulnerable today to all the social media and all this other kind of stuff. Back then, it was the radio, and I was just dying laughing driving to work listening to that because Avon Mountain probably hasn't exploded in many, 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 many thousands of years. So, but
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't even think there's any magma or lava underneath Avon Mountain at this point.
not just a lot of hard rock. So, but
Yeah.
it's just funny to laugh at ourselves and laugh at that. But I always April 1st, I always think of that one because that was just so funny. So, but anyway, happy April, everybody, and we are definitely in springtime.
We are. And, spring is a time of rebirth and growth. And we're actually going to be talking about one of the ways that you can experience personal growth, and that's by getting out of your comfort zone. And, it's called the comfort zone for a reason. So many people don't want to be out of it because it is comfortable, it's familiar, it's what you know. But the fact of the matter is most of the rewards you're looking for are all outside of your comfort zone. And there's a lot of benefits to getting out of your comfort zone. And the first of which is personal growth. When you head into unfamiliar territory, it's a challenge. And you have to adapt or learn new skills, learn to cope with new things. And by doing this on a regular basis and getting out of your comfort zone, you're improving yourself, you're growing. Again, as you learn more, as you adapt to different situations, you find you're capable of so much more than you might have thought you were.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things about getting out of your comfort zone is it's going to build your self-confidence just by trying something new. It's going to build your productivity. It's going to help you cope with change and a whole lot of other things. And really, the first thing that you got to overcome is your fear of getting out of your comfort zone in the first place, because we all get very, very relaxed in the way that things are going. And if things are going okay, that's great. And until you really force yourself to just reach out and do a little bit more, you're never going to experience the exhilaration that happens when you do that. I mean, I'm sure that it's happened to everybody out there from time to time when they have done that. But if you can just go back and look at that and realize how you felt, it's really, really something that you got to strive for and just get going. So the first thing to recognize is that you're there, that you may have some fears or other reasons why you're there. And here we are. This is the first of the month. It's the first full month of spring. It's time to get off. I mean, we've talked about New Year's resolutions and so on and so forth. At any point in time, you can just flip that switch in yourself and say, okay, I'm going to start something new. So let's make it getting outside your comfort zone right now.
Absolutely. And, once you're out of your comfort zone, your comfort zone will expand to include where you are now. So you then again have to get out of your comfort zone to grow further. But the more often you do it, the easier it becomes because you're not only growing each time you do it, you're enhancing your creativity and you're increasing your resilience. And as your resilience increases, it's easier and easier to adapt to new situations, to go that little extra mile, and to get out of your comfort zone. So, when you embrace your discomfort, it forces you to think outside the box, which again increases your creativity. It allows you to explore more innovative solutions to challenges. And as your creativity and your resilience grow, you get used to seeing setbacks and failures, but you see them in a different light. You see what you can learn from them. And you realize that, to paraphrase Winston Churchill, failure is not forever. It's something that happens, you learn from it, and then you do better next time. So your resilience builds. So you become more capable each time you do this. And by doing it on a regular basis, by pushing yourself further than you thought you could go and getting out of your comfort zone, you'll find yourself being able to do so much more because you'll have increased your creativity, increased your resilience, and you'll be able to cope with more. And again, the more you can cope with, the easier it is to push past your comfort zone again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've had several sessions where we've talked about finding your why, and that's really where it starts with. If you want to go back to your personal strategic plan and why you are here in the first place and what you're meant to do, and if you've worked on that, go back to that and figure out exactly what your why is. Why are you here? What do you want to accomplish, and how are you going to do that? And start taking a look at that list as far as what are the things that you have to do to achieve that. So start with your why and then take a look at that list of different things. And as we talk about, just start small. If the goal is this, then put down the little steps that you have to take and start doing them one by one. And that's one of the things to get out there. But if you can get out of your comfort zone and have that why in front of you as a visual or whatever, just have it as a statement that you're going to read every day, that's going to help you a whole lot. And basically, you're going to be going through the steps that we've talked about as far as smart goals, achieving something every day, planning, and so on and so forth, and just sticking to the plan. And that's how the whole thing works. This is not rocket science, and everything that we talk about in one way or another is related.
And that's so true. And, setting your goals, even small ones, is the start to getting out of your comfort zone. You know, set achievable goals that push your boundaries just a little bit. And then as you gain confidence and as you build resilience, you can gradually increase the difficulty of those challenges by growing those goals. And those goals will get bigger and bigger as you accomplish them and as you push further and further out of your comfort zone. So that's a great place to start, is setting those goals. And then when you're thinking about the goals and you're thinking about your why, you really need to embrace failure. The main reason that most people don't go out of their comfort zone is because they're afraid to fail. They think they'll be ridiculed or they'll be ashamed that they failed. Well, the fact is, there's nothing embarrassing about failure. The most successful people on the planet have failed more often than they've succeeded. Take a look at companies. Nobody would say that Apple or Google are failures as companies, but Apple has failed many times. The Lisa computer, the Newton, the Apple Cube, eWorld. I can go on and on. There's tons of failures that Apple has had. And yet each one they learned from, took parts of, and built into successful products. Google has done the same thing. Google search engine has been an enormous success, but they've tried 5 different times to create a social media platform, and every one of them has failed. In fact, Google just had a massive, very public setback with their AI. Does that mean that Google's getting out of the AI business? No, of course not. They're learning from that failure and they're moving forward. That's what we have to do as individuals. Don't be afraid to fail. Look at failure as a lesson. Once something happens that you go, okay, I am not going to achieve that goal in the set time. Look at why. Look at what happened and how you can improve, and then try again. Failure is nothing more than an educational opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I look for my bulleted list, as I always do, as far as how to do this and how to do that, how getting out of your comfort zones, what you just talked about to a T, which is what you should all write down. What these companies did that succeeded is they all took a fail forward approach. And if you write that down, take a fail forward approach, you're just one step closer to success. It's so important. And very recently, it might have been in our last podcast together, we talked about connectors. The other thing to keep in mind is that there are a whole lot of confident people out there, people that you know who want to help you out. Take them around along for the ride with you. Share what you want to do with them, and they will be there to help you out too. Associate with those people who are positive. If you hang around the people who are negative all the time, who are going to have the reasons why you can't do things, those are the people you have to avoid. But if you continue to do that, you are going to get what you hang around with. So when you turn that switch and you want to start moving forward to get out of your comfort zone, think of the people out there, the examples, the people that you know in your life who definitely would love to hear that you are doing that and cheer you on for doing that and help you out in doing that too. So seek out these people because they're there and they're willing to help. And if you write down the people in your life that you know that's like that, you're going to find a list of a lot more people than you thought you know just by putting your mind to it and saying, okay, who do I know?
Yes, your network is so important when you're trying to reach outside your comfort zone. Your network is a source, should be a source of support. You should be surrounding yourself with a supportive network of friends, family, mentors, peers, folks who are on the same path as you, who can encourage you and you can encourage them, where you can find motivation. And you do need to take a good look at your network. As Chip just said, you need to surround yourself with positive people. If folks are telling you, oh, you can't do it, can't be done, why bother? That's going to hold you back. And generally, and we've talked about mindset a lot, but the folks that you want to be connected with, who are this supportive network, should all have a growth mindset. And you should also have a growth mindset. You need to embrace the belief that your abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. And this is the core of a growth mindset. Now, just to remind our listeners, the opposite of a growth mindset is a fixed mindset. And in a fixed mindset, you believe whatever is, it can't be changed, there's nothing you can do about it. And that is a limiting mindset. The fact of the matter is, you are your own worst enemy. If you believe you can't do it, then you can't. As Henry Ford said, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. So you need to adopt a growth mindset and believe that what you have now is not all you can do. You may be working very hard at what you're doing, but that doesn't mean that you've hit your limits. We have no limits. We can always learn more. We can always adapt to a new situation. We can always do a little bit better. And that's the growth mindset. That's what you have to have. You need to view your challenges as opportunities and understand that they're not threats to you. They're challenges for you to overcome and for you to realize that, yes, they can be overcome. And maybe you do need some assistance. And that's what that supportive network is for.
Yeah, absolutely. They are out there to help you. One of the other bullets that I came up with and this is so, so important, is just if you want to chunk it down, just engage yourself in a gradual exposure practice. And basically, the support to this says every time you face your fear, your brain records the evidence of success and weakens the neural pathways associated with fearing the situation. Think about gradual exposure as a vaccine that boosts your mental immunity and fear resilience. We're talking about vaccines for flus and COVID and all this other kind of stuff. But basically, a vaccine is against something that's negative in your system. And my thing, when I'm talking about the positivity and the kindness platform vaccine, basically, it's a vaccine against the negativity that's buried in us by hitting us with a dose of positivity. And that's what this is all about. The more success that you experience little by little, that grows stronger and stronger and stronger. And that is just on demand when you want to do that too. You don't have to take a shot for that. So just engage in a gradual exposure practice.
Yeah, I love the analogy of a vaccine, and it really is a great analogy because thing that most people, you know, the reason they stay in their comfort zone is fear. And we've talked about this before. Fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. But the way a vaccine works is it exposes your immune system to a small part of whatever it is you're being vaccinated against. And it trains your immune system to fight off the disease. Well, this works the same way. Why are you afraid of something? Because it's unknown. So if you expose yourself to it, it stops being unknown. And little by little, you stop being afraid of it. And dealing with that fear is a major way to get out of your comfort zone because it is what's holding you back. And there's two things, the vaccination analogy is great, but there's actually two actions that you can take dealing with fear to make it easier to expose yourself to what you're afraid of. And one of them is mindfulness. You know, the reason you're afraid of something, the reason you're experiencing fear is because you're projecting out into the future. You're thinking about what could go wrong and what the consequences might be. And how horrible it might be to deal with those consequences. And if you pull yourself back and focus on the present moment, what's good right now, you cultivating that mindfulness allows you to become more aware of your thoughts and aware of your emotions. So you see what you're afraid of and why you're afraid of it. And you can look at it, more logically, but also saying that, well, I don't know that that's going to happen. Realistically, the odds are just as good that something great could happen. And when you focus on how you're feeling and what you're facing, then you can acknowledge that you're afraid. And don't judge yourself for being afraid. Just say, okay, you know what? This frightens me. It makes me nervous. It makes me anxious. And by acknowledging that, not judging yourself, you can actually choose to move forward and overcome that fear. And then as you're moving forward, another way to help overcome the fear going forward is to look at what you're doing and look at what you accomplished. So even if you just got out of your comfort zone a little bit, you can celebrate that progress and go, hey, you know what? I progressed more than I would have. And celebrate that. Give yourself the attaboy.
Yeah.
When it's so important to acknowledge that every step that you take forward is a positive one. Even if you don't necessarily accomplish your goal, you take a step closer to it, and that deserves to be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And engaging in this gradual exposure practice, talking about the vaccines that to break down the fear by exposing it to successes. One of the bullets before that, which as far as I'm concerned, should have come afterwards. What you are doing by doing that is you are training your fearless muscle.
Yep.
The text underneath that says, coming out of a comfort zone is always scary. The only way to become good at it is to do it often. It's like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger you become. So, training your fearless muscle is a nice other buzzword that you can go to also.
Absolutely. And, when you're talking about training your fearless muscle, it's actually something we've all done. And we've done it over and over again. Think about it as a child. Were you apprehensive your first day of school? Well, most people are. But once you got there and once you met new people and made new friends, it got easier and you went back and you weren't afraid of it anymore. The first time you climbed to the top of the monkey bars, or, you know, you were afraid when you got up there and you held on for dear life. The first time you went on a roller coaster, the first time you do something is usually at least a little scary, but we've all faced it. And we've got, as an adult, we don't think about that anymore because we've done it so often. But yet we still let those fearful moments hold us back. So understand that, exercising that fearless muscle is something you've been doing your entire life. So you can do it again and again. You may need to focus a little more than you did as a kid, because kids are incredibly resilient, and we do tend to lose a little of that as we grow up. But if you think about it, it's like, yes, I've done this. Were you scared the first time you got behind the wheel of a car? Again, most people are. But now it's second nature to most people. You drive all the time. So, yeah, you can take that muscle, grow it, make it stronger, and face your fears like you've already done so often.
Yeah. And as we talked about before, don't do it alone. I mean, one thing that you can do is find a role model in your life, or just when you're reading or something positive, somebody to emulate. Take a look at a documentary about a success story and how people did it. That's one thing you can do. And then another thing is, obviously we all have our comfort zones that we're in, our fears that we have to get out of. Take somebody along for the ride with you. Have an accountability partner. Learn a new skill with somebody. Basically, I am as a grandpa, and looking at my kids who I used to take out of fears, now bring their kids out of fears just by saying, try it, you can do it, and so on and so forth. That never stops. To you folks, that if there are children listening, we're still children too, even though I'm grandparents and so on and so forth, because we're always learning, we're always having fun with things. That never, ever, ever stops. So think about that enthusiasm that you have when you're trying something new, and get somebody to do it with and share it with. I mean, we talked about sharing successes and so on and so forth. These all go together. So think of a role model that you can emulate, people who had successes. I mean, you're hearing stories about that, family and so on and so forth, and friends, people that you know, and take somebody along for the ride, and maybe have an accountability partner where you're going on this journey together. Start a new routine where you're going to be doing that.
Yeah, it's so important to be able to have somebody you can confide in. And whether you do or not, the idea of a role model, and it doesn't necessarily mean somebody you've idolized your entire life, it can be so motivating. And I will tell you a personal story. This goes back probably 35 years ago, if not a little longer. I had fairly severe carpal tunnel syndrome in both of my arms. And It was very debilitating for a time. I had both of my arms in braces, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And I did find it very depressing. And one day on my lunch hour from work, I'm walking around a bookstore. And at the time, the book A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking had just come out and it had just hit the bestseller list. So it was all over the bookstore. And I'm looking at this book and I'm looking at what Stephen Hawking had done. And he's in a wheelchair. He can't speak without, computer aid. And I'm going, well, if he can do all of that with his, all I have is a problem with my arms, and there's a good chance that that's going to get better from the braces. So why am I getting so depressed over this? I can push forward because look, somebody else has already done it. They've showed me it's possible. So find people who have already pushed past their limits and let them inspire you. Take their example as yes, you can do more because other people have already done it, and so can you.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that you can do to get out of your comfort zone is to just make a list of different things that you've always wanted to do and pick out one or two of them and just start doing it. Start trying to do something that you've always wanted to do, but you haven't done yet. Could be a fitness challenge. It could be saying working towards going on a vacation someplace, a professional skill set that you wanted to do. It could be taking another course at college or just reading a book. Try something new to get yourself out of the routine. Next time you want to go to social media and just look at all the stuff that's going on in the world that you don't even want to know about, start something new and just get it going. So if you can replace what you're in the comfort zone with that's bringing you down with something that is new and productive and stimulating, it's a great way to get things going. So just replace whatever is there with something new.
Right. And never make the assumption that you can't do it. That is a big part of what holds people back. Look for, if you make the assumption that yes, this can be done, you will be able to find the resources to be able to do it. And there are a lot of resources out there. If you want to learn a new skill, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of free apps that will teach you. There's videos on YouTube that you can learn from. And it's never too late. In fact, if you're a senior, and I mean senior citizen, not a senior in high school or college, but if you're a senior citizen, most community colleges will allow you to take courses for free. So there's all sorts of resources that you can learn something new. You can keep your mind active and you can push out of that comfort zone. And of course, when you do get out of that comfort zone, you'll find there's more opportunities that you can chase. There's more advantages. And every time you push a little further, it gives you an incentive to push even farther and gain more. So we are just about at the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think the big takeaway for our listeners is this week?
Well, I'm continuing on, just identifying where you are stuck in your life in your comfort zones. Start working on developing a positive routine. And what are the results of this going to be? Building your confidence, building your productivity, helping you cope better with change, helping you face your fears and get by them, building relationships. All those things are there for you if you get outside of your comfort zone. They're all there for you to get. And as Eric just mentioned, I mean, there's all kinds of resources online where you can just look at positive things to do and get started. They help you out that weren't there when I was a whole lot younger. So go out and do it.
Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is that when you boil everything down, what it comes down to is that the only thing holding you back is you. And there's no reason for you to be doing that. You can overcome your fear. You can overcome obstacles and challenges. And you can do more than you ever thought you could. And yes, there are tons of people in the world that will say, oh, you can't do this, that can't happen. Yeah, it's not meant for you. You know. And the fact of the matter is, most of these people are telling you you can't do it because they haven't done it, because they haven't gotten out of their comfort zone, and they want to hold you back, to where they are. And those are the folks that you need to say, you know what? Maybe you can't do it, but I can. And that's the important thing, is that you need to realize that you can do it. No matter what the it is, the only thing holding you back is you. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode of the Success Showcase at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.